สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. Today I'm making an insanely good dessert. In Thailand we call it toffee cake, but what it is a mocha cake with a toffee cashew crust on top. I mean, that just sounds good. I've actually never seen this cake outside of Thailand, so if you've seen something similar, please let me know. I'd love to hear more about it, and let's get started. This cake typically uses a genoise base, and genoise is a type of cake that's a bit tricky to make. It involves egg foam and all that tricky stuff. So I've modified it to be a very simple cake, basically a dump and stir type cake, which I love. So I've got a pot here, which I'm going to cook my flavor base in. And the flavor base is coffee and chocolate. Just a little water. And this water is going to help my coffee dissolve. Now I'm using Nescafe, which is the most popular type of instant coffee in Thailand. If you don't want to buy a whole jar of instant coffee just for this recipe, you could also try a really strong brewed espresso, or you can try the Starbucks Via if you've got those. So once the coffee is dissolved, I'm going to add the chocolate. So this is semi-sweet chocolate that I've chopped up. Get that mixed up, some vegetable oil, and some butter. And then I'm just gonna cook this over medium-low heat, and you want to be stirring and scraping the bottom so your chocolate doesn't scorch. Once everything is dissolved and smooth, I'm just gonna set it aside and let it cool while we get our other stuff ready. I've got some all-purpose flour here. No need to sift it because we're gonna whisk everything together. I'm gonna add some baking soda and a little bit of baking powder, some salt, and some sugar. The sugar grains will break up any lumps of flour or baking powder. Wet ingredients next. I've got 2 eggs, and I'm very excited to be whisking them with my new little tiny whisk. So cute. Some vanilla going in there. Yogurt, and I'm using full-fat yogurt here. And whisk away. I'm slightly obsessed with mini kitchen utensils, even though it's like not very efficient at all. So as long as it's smooth, you don't have any more clumps, lumps of yogurt, ready to go. And now all we need to do is mix everything together. So my mocha base, I can drink that. Scrape every bit, okay? This is what a rubber spat is good for. Just give it a quick mix, just so everything is combined together. And it'll be very thick, that's okay. We're not done yet. And I'm gonna change weapon here to my whisk, the egg mixture, and it'll slowly come together. So easy, as you can see, it's dump and stir, and it's really moist and tender and That's it. When it's smooth, you are ready to bake this. I am using a quarter sheet pan. Basically, it's about 12 by 8, 8.5. If you've got a 12 by 9 sort of brownie pan, that'll work as well. And I'm going to line it with parchment on the bottom, but the sides I'm going to grease with a little bit of oil. The parchment down. Spread it out when you're pouring so you have less spreading out to do afterwards. So heavy. Actually, for this, I like to use my offset spatula. Just run your knife one more time to get rid of any large bubbles and to even it out. Sorry, I meant a spatula. These things are so useful, by the way, these little offset spatula, for everything. Da-da-da-da. Here it is. To test doneness, we can just do the standard toothpick test. You can see those holes there. You just stick the toothpick in the center, you pull it out, and if it's clean, then you're good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna let this cake rest and cool for now while we make the topping, which really is the best part of this cake. And you don't want to pour the topping on a very hot cake because right now it's not very stable yet. It's still really soft and the topping's quite heavy. It'll crush it, but it doesn't need to cool completely. It just needs to be warm and the cake has stabilized. Okay, I'm just gonna put this behind there and we can get our topping going. Little fun fact about cashews, they're one of the only 2 types of nuts that we use in our cooking, the other one being obviously peanuts. However, I think this cake would be really good with pecans, so if you want to try, go for it. So I've got some roasted unsalted cashews here and I'm going to roughly chop them. So I run my knife over most of them. So once I've got most of them cut in half, I'm gonna go and pick out the ones that are still whole and cut them separately. And the reason why is I don't want to keep cutting until everything is, all cut, because then I get a lot of little cashew dust like that, which I don't want. But at the same time, I don't want any whole ones, because the whole ones will stick up really high on the top, and then when I go to broil the top, it'll burn because it sticks up higher than everyone else. So just go around and quickly pick out the ones that are either whole or just really fat. So now I'm gonna cut these ones. Let's make the most delicious part of this cake. I'm gonna go in with some evaporated milk. This is unsweetened. It's not the same as condensed milk. The instant coffee. Again, you could use the Via packet or some strong espresso. Get that dissolved a little. Butter. Lots and lots of butter. While that's going, just set it on low heat. I'm going to show you a little trick. So I've got my sugar here, and I'm gonna add my flour, also the salt. Toffee or caramel without salt is not good. And then I'm gonna whisk all this together using my other mini whisk. And what this does is it disperses the flour so that when you add it to the liquid, the flour won't clump up. So it's the same idea as when you make a flour slurry with some water. You dissolve the flour first so you don't get clumps. You can also put it in a jar and shake, shake, shake. Once all the butter is gone, you can go ahead and add the sugar flour mixture. You want to be whisking it at the same time though, so that again, you don't have any clumps of flour. I'm going to change weapon now so I can scrape the bottom. There's something about the combination of coffee and butter. That smell, so good. Now that it's come to a boil, I am going to stop and go in with the cashews. I always salivate whenever I get to this stage because it just smells crazy good. And that's it. That is the topping. Now, the tip is don't make the topping too far in advance because you want the toppings to still be hot and fluid so you can easily spread it over your cake. So don't do this while your cake is baking, okay? And I'm just gonna go ahead and lather it on. So compared to the toffee cake that you can get in Thailand, this one has less cake. It's something that I've always wanted to do because I always find that the ones in Thailand, there's too much cake and not enough topping. So now I get to make it exactly how I want it. And I always save a little bit in the pot because I generally find that I have to fill the edges and the corner, and it's just easier to get it from the pot rather than to try to spread stuff out from the middle. This is the funnest part. It's the part where the topping becomes toffee. We're gonna put this under the broiler and it's going to caramelize and brown the top, and it also dry it up so that we can cut it and the topping won't run over everywhere. All right, so just to show you what this looks like, this one browned a little too much in the middle, but it's still okay. This is actually my first time using this oven to broil it. The edges aren't as browned as the one in the center. That's typical, so you try to move the pan as much as you can. But before you cut it, you want to let it cool completely because this is still soft. So you want to wait until the sugar is cool before we take it out. But I have one ready. Okay, so this is one that I made at home. As you can see, it's a little more even because I know my oven a little better, so I'm able to manipulate it. Cutting. There's a little trick to this. You want to first flip it out. Before you do that, you want to loosen the sides. Put the cutting board on top of the pan, hold firmly, and flip. And then you hope that it comes out. Ta-da! Peel off the parchment. So there's a little bit of a trick in cutting this cake. You want to cut it upside down because if you cut it through the nuts will crush the cake. So I'm just gonna make incisions until I hit the nuts. I'm not cutting through the nuts with a serrated knife. You're gonna go in with a regular chef's knife and cut the nuts in one confident move. Just like that, okay? Now, this cake keeps really well. You can give it to your friends in a care package. Let's try it. I love that coffee flavor. And the combination of the coffee flavor and the caramelized sugar, oh my god. The cake is rich and moist and the top is crunchy. It's just so, so good. I promise you. You give this to your friends, your family, your loved ones, and they are going to love it and then love you for it. So I hope you give this a try. It's a little bit of work, but it's really not difficult. And when you do make it, send me a photo on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And the recipe, as always, is on hotthaikitchen.com. And I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal.